Hi, I am going to be talking to you today about sit-ups and how you can do them effectively and safely as you are healing from childbirth or any abdominal compromise, frankly. Sit-ups have gotten a bad rap over the years because they are such a nuanced exercise. There is a lot of room for mistake. And so there's been a great amount of fear kind of built up around the act of a sit-up. And like, am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? And all of the kind of chatter around don't do sit-ups if you have diastasis recti. I'm here to kind of debunk all of that fear factor stuff and just lay it out for you. Sit-ups are totally great. They're necessary. Your six-pack muscle, it's called your rectus abdominis, it sits on top of your trunk, basically, right on top. Its function, its primary function, is a sit-up. It's to do this. It's to fold your body in half like that, okay? So sit-ups are an excellent way to rehabilitate that muscle. The thing about the six-pack is that it is sitting against another system of abdominal muscles. It's called your transverse abdominals, okay? Your transverse abdominals are a corset. They start in your spine and they're this big fan that wrap around and form your waist. And right down the middle of the trunk, they kind of just soften out of being muscle into a bunch of connective tissue, okay? And that all lies underneath the six-pack. When you have a baby, all of that gets stretched out. Okay, the corset underneath has to be the front line of rehabilitation. It has to learn how to re-engage itself back around you before the external muscles can turn on. If you don't, if you leave that all soft and without integrity and try to do a sit-up, it's kind of like trying to contract a muscle over Jell-O. There's nothing to stabilize it and it's just sort of floating around, and that's where we get conditions, or we can create conditions or worsen conditions like diastasis recti, which is that separation. Let's just start by debunking the whole diastasis fear factor as well. Diastasis is not a death sentence, okay? It is treatable. You can work with it. You need to understand it, like what I'm describing to you right now, okay? And it does take work. You need to work with it mindfully, lovingly. It doesn't matter ultimately if you still have a little bit of separation in the six-pack muscle. If you have a nice, strong, connected transverse abdominal behind that muscle and it's pretty much closed together, we call that a functional diastasis. That's not the end of the world. You're not going to end up incontinent and your organs falling out and all sorts of awful, scare stories happening to you because you have a slight separation between the six-pack. The six-pack has a natural separation. That's why you see 6 little muscles, right? 8 in really cut abdominal muscles. But you see these little like single packs of muscle. They're all broken up by connective tissue. We have that so that the abdomen can expand and contract. If it was solid muscle, it wouldn't be able to do that. We have these muscles built together with connective tissue so that the whole trunk can do this. Whether you've eaten a big meal or had a baby, your belly has to be able to expand and contract. So as we start to rehabilitate the whole system from the inside out and from the outside in, we're going to start from the transverse abdominals and then ask the six-pack to turn on top of that, okay? I use a roller to give myself support in the shoulder blades, okay? Now, when you lie down and you get this roller behind your shoulder blades, the first thing you need to look at is the muscle actually spread out and in integrity and ready to work? Or is it all collapsed and crunched down like this? Think about like a crumpled up piece of paper and then trying to crumple it even more. It has very little motion, right? You can't do quite that much to it. But think about a nice spread out piece of paper that you can fold into a fan and then expand again. That's what we're going for with this muscle contraction. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to lengthen out my pelvis. So if my pelvis is jacked up, my waist is contracting here, and I'm bowing up here, there you are with the opposite of what we want to create, right? We want to create that nice contracted internal compression in the abdominal muscles, a nice long trunk, so that the waist can re-find its integrity. All right, so you've got a nice descended pubic bone, nice descended hip flexors. You're gonna look around for this line from your pubic bone to your belly button to your ribs. That's your six-pack. You want it nice and smoothed out so that we can create an authentic contraction. Take your hands down to your hip flexors and your hips, lengthen out your waist, take a breath in, and as you exhale, you're going to pull the transverse abdominals into each other. Now take your hands behind your neck because I know you're trying to hold yourself up here. You're going to hold up your neck for a moment and you're just going to take a couple of breaths, finding the internal corset.
And it really is just like a squeeze across the midline. And you can feel almost like you can look at it between the two front hip bones. Can I feel like I'm pulling a seatbelt that's really tight right there? Sometimes you can think about trying to pull up a tight pair of pants and like zip them up. That's the kind of motion we're going for. And you want to be aware when you're doing this, if you feel any weird pressure in the pelvic floor, it means that the pelvic floor can't sustain what you're doing up here. You need to relax, pick up your Kegel again, and then try up here again. All right, so from here, I've got my transverse abdominals. I've contracted them in. You can see that I just cinched it up. Now I'm going to take my fingers to my belly button. The belly button is the gateway between the upper and lower abdominal line, okay? Kind of the gateway of the six pack. You need to feel a muscle happen right there. So on top of the transverse abdominals, you need to feel, can I feel my belly button engage? Now I'm gonna squeeze my belly button and think about bringing my rib cage to my belly button. Use your fingers to know what is turning on. That's all I'm doing. I'm squeezing my rib cage to my belly button. I'm pulling in the transverse abdominals as I do this. So every time I'm coming up, I'm also thinking in and up. Now take your awareness all the way down to the pubic bone. Can you feel the full line talking to itself? In and up. Transverse abdominals, in and up, compressing. In and up. That's your sit-up. You can stretch it out, take a second, release it. You can definitely roll down after that and do a little work on the neck. Just kind of rinse that out for a second. Good. And then come on up. So sit-ups are actually a great place to start to work, recovering the conversation between your transverse abdominals and your six pack because you've got gravity on your side, right? It takes a lot of mindfulness, as you just saw. That can set you up for great success when you do turn over and start to try to do planks and other strength challenges that are against gravity, where the belly just wants to hang out. You've already set yourself up to know what it feels like to be pulling in. And then a plank pose can truly be an abdominal strengthener and not just stuck on your arms and shoulders and legs.